Chaplain Frank Roth out in the audience. Frank, if you're out here, please come behind stage. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to call to order the fourth session of the 127th Convention in Ocean City. And I'd like to ask Chaplain Frank Roth to come forward this morning for the prayer.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the opportunities you give us every day to serve others. We thank you, Lord, for this convention as we have gathered together. We pray that you would bless us each one. Please continue to bless us throughout this state. Keep us safe. Keep us within your will. Father, we ask that you would just continue to be with us, guide us, and direct us. Thank you for the opportunity to serve, for you gave your all and reached out to others. Help us to do the same. Thank you for this day, and thank you for this association. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Now, I'd like Safety Chairman Mike LeCompte to come forward for a short safety message.
I'm going to get him back. I like it. Hey, good morning, everybody. We're winding down. I'll make this real quick. I'll make you happy. On that list that's out there, you probably see signage all through the building. We've gotten right to the identity of what's killing our firefighters. And again, it's heart attack, about 50%. You've heard it all through the convention. The best thing you can do is know what stress means. For instance, pulling large diameter hose, know when to stop, know when to ask for help. That's causing what they call onset. Keeping hydrated with this water. This is the most powerful thing. When you talk to a physician, they tell you keep hydrated, keep hydrated, keep hydrated, because it causes a physiological problem in our bodies. The potassium goes down, and we have a heart attack. And that's what's out in the fire ground. That's what's killing us. Plus, being exposed to the sun is humidity, even on an accident scene. When we start putting all of our gear on, things go bad. And the people that are with Queen Anne Hillsboro's fire department in Caroline County can attest to that. The other one's cancer. Very, very simple. Wear personal protective equipment. If you can smell it or it can get on you, it can kill you. And that's the way you need to train your new firefighters. So if they're around the smoke, they can smell the smoke or the smoke can get on them. Wear personal protective equipment. Do not breathe it. Everything that the buildings are made of today and the composites in the cars are all different. And oftentimes they have over 100 different chemicals and additives. and that is what's causing a lot of these cancers. Plus what we do in our own personal lives, smoking and all like that. Quit it. The other one's motor vehicle accidents, to be directly to the point. Driving too fast, the young firefighters driving too fast, trying to get to a firehouse, and standing in the roadway. As I said yesterday and the day before, roads are designed for vehicles. They're not designed for us. I talked to the fire chief from Manchester, New York, who's had 7 different incidents involving people striking their vehicles. And he was telling me that what they do is they shut everything down first. They get everybody stopped, their opponents stopped down the road. They send a secondary police car down the road to let people know, like they do traffic zones. And then what they turn around and do is they let cars start to move. Once they get in place, just like going to a house fire, they get everything lined up and then they start letting the cars go. What they found that does is by stopping the cars, and they have to run up and stop, and then they take off, they're gently going by the scene, and it's reduced their accident to just a little tip to the trade. Doesn't cost anything. And the last one is falling through and falling from elevation. Basement fires are extremely dangerous. The fire chief from Wilmington, Delaware can attest to that. He lost 3 firefighters 2 years ago. They didn't know that the floor had been compromised, and it was an older building. The bottom line is 3 firefighters died from it. And what happened over in Howard County, God bless him. But again, when you go to these fires with the new composites and the way the buildings are being built nowadays, and that was way over $1 million home, we found out what happened. So be careful of that. Let it go. That's why we have insurance. I'm in the insurance business. Let it go. That's what it's there for. Don't let one of your firefighters go out here and be killed. So with that, hopefully you're going to enjoy the parade today. We've been down there setting up. And thank you guys for visiting our town. See you.
Please bear with us for 1 second. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to introduce the officers of the Ladies Auxiliary to the Maryland State Firemen's Association. While they're making their way to the stage, it's my honor to introduce my counterpart, my partner in crime, President of the Ladies Auxiliary, Lori Dembo.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Is there anybody out there? Good morning, everyone. Thank you, that's a lot better. I would like to introduce you to my officers this year. First is one of my conference co-chairs, my sister, Christine Deckard. My Bessie Marshall co-chairs, past presidents Kathy Nipple and past president Patricia Demon. My color bearers, Barbara Sue Nelson, Robin Shorb, Guard Kay Trago, Historian Jennifer Johnson, Vice Chaplain Holly Trago, Chaplain Joan Kramer, Corresponding Secretary Sherry Steffen, Financial Secretary Jean Main, Treasurer Christy Grinder, Recording Secretary Malia Dalton, Junior Vice President Becky Wathen, and Senior Vice President Donna Struntz. We're looking forward to working with the MSFA this year, and have a good rest of your convention. Thank you.
Okay, sweetie. Time to get to work, all right? All right, back to work. There you go. They don't need any escorts. They're fine. Next. Now I'd like I guess I'd like to, I don't know. I'd like to invite up Secretary Doyle Cox for some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Usually at this time, any correspondence, we read it. There will be no correspondence for the association at this time. Also, resolutions for approval. We have no get it out of there. We have no resolutions. We've changed the procedures we've gone to certificates. So at this time, that is the portion of the report.
Could Mark Bilger please come to the podium? It's my honor to introduce past President Rick Blair for his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been an honor and a pleasure serving the state of Maryland and the citizens of the state of Maryland, as well as the officers and members of every fire company and EMS company across the state. I had the honor of working with a lot of intelligent people, especially the officers of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. Every one of those officers have stepped up to the plate this year. Actually, I'm winging this. I left my notes in the car again. But these guys and ladies has really did a lot for this state association this past year. Things has been shaken up a little bit, just as well as Trump's shaking up the country. You know, we will be changing some things that we do over the next couple of years, and you will see the outcome, which will be better for the Maryland State Firemen's Association. And that's pretty much everything I have to say, but I'd like to personally thank people in the audience today for their support. Being here makes a difference. Thank you.
It's my honor to stand here today representing past President Tom Mattingly, and I'm here to provide past President Rick Blair with his badge, ring, and pocket bullion and welcome them into the fold of the past presidents.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce our main program presentation today, being presented by Ray Obrocki, CBO, Manager of Fire Service Relations Program, Administrator, Construction Fire Safety Coalition for the American Wood Council.
Good morning. PowerPoint. My name is Ray Obrocki, for those who don't know me. Before I became the Manager of Fire Service Relations for the American Wood Council, I was in the Baltimore City Fire Department for 23 years. I was the Fire Marshal for Baltimore City. I retired as the Assistant Fire Chief. And I went to work for the City of Rockville for a couple years as their Chief Building Official. So I have experience as a fire official, and fire code official, and building official. But now I'm with the American Wood Council. The American Wood Council, basically, briefly, is an industry group that represents the wood and timber industry, and we deal with the codes and standards. We're not the marketing wing of the wood industry. We deal with codes and standards. We basically write Chapter 23 in the International Building Code. We also promote green building standards and environmental regulations. So I'm here to talk about tall mass timber buildings that are coming in the 2021 edition of the IBC. And for shock effect, this would allow wood buildings built up to 18 stories. So when I first heard that, I thought, are you crazy? And I'm sure some of you in the crowd think, are you crazy? So I'm going to go through what the code proposals are. But tall mass timber is nothing new to our society. These are some examples of tall, heavy timber buildings that exist. Two of them are in British Columbia. One is in Dallas. They are huge, dimensional sawn lumber cross-sections that are the floors and the primary frame, usually surrounded with non-combustible masonry walls. The product that makes mass timber buildings possible, the heavy timber, is solid pieces of lumber that are sawn. Cross-laminated timber is a new product. It's a sea change in wood construction. It allows mass timber to be built to the heights that I'm going to talk about today. It's not necessarily a new product. It actually, the first patent for cross-laminated timber was given in France in 1985. In 1992-3, you see the first buildings made out of cross-laminated timber go up. There were new environmental regulations in the 2000s which caused an explosion of CLT. CLT is cross-laminated timber buildings in the UK. The way cross-laminated timber is manufactured is that you have 2x solid lumber pressed together in a lamination. It is adhered from a center panel out symmetrically. So there's always an odd number of laminations, 5 or 7 or 9. Right here is a picture of the test. This test was conducted at the ATF lab. I'm going to show just one or two videos. I usually show all 5 of them, but for time's sake, I'm just going to show 2. This was built at the ATF lab in Prince George's County, Maryland. And what you see up there is a slab of mass timber. The mass timber slabs can be as wide as 12 or 20 feet or as long as 80 feet, but nobody would make them 80 feet because you couldn't transport them. That one particularly is 40 feet long and it weighs 3 tons. And I say weighs 3 tons because after the fire test, they actually took this apart, they repurposed it, and gave it to Yale for some architectural students to actually build residential housing. I add this photo, you can see the guy on the top to see the scale of mass timber compared to, say, the average human guy. For those who are familiar with precast concrete construction, where you have these concrete panels that are manufactured off-site and brought on-site, that's what mass timber is. It is panelized construction that is manufactured off-site and brought on-site. So one thing that I do want to talk about is the difference between tall mass timber or even mass timber construction and what most of us are used to, which is lightweight wood construction. The fires you've seen on television and on the news and on the internet, where you see a podium that was built, there was one in Prince George's County that went up, there was one in Rockville. This is not mass timber construction. This is lightweight wood construction. On the far left, you'll see an example of lightweight wood. The middle one is post and beam, which would be traditional heavy timber. And then to the right is mass timber panelized. And to give you a real picture, a real life picture, that's the difference. On the right is light, conventional light frame wood, and the left is panelized mass timber. And one of the biggest differences is the weight to surface area ratio. Mass timber is solid dense. These panels can be anywhere from 7 to 20 inches thick. There's no concealed spaces. There are no stud cavities. If you look down this hallway, you see stud cavities, concealed spaces once the gypboard is put up. In mass timber construction, you don't have, you have solid wood. It's essentially the difference between putting, say, kindling in a campfire or trying to light a log this big on fire, for those who have ever gone camping. So why were some of these codes necessary? Why did it come about? And a lot of people think that it was the wood industry that said, hey, we want to build this product, so we're going to push for these code changes. It actually was building officials driven by the green building movement. The green building movement in Europe sort of came across the Atlantic and took hold here, and they wanted to build newer and greener buildings. At the time when these codes were first proposed, the American Wood Council had 0 dues-paying members that even made CLT. We were asked to be brought into this as technical advisors because of our knowledge of wood products and wood construction. So building officials said, hey, these buildings are being proposed, and we don't know what to do with them because there's nothing in the code about that allows tall mass timber. But in Chapter 1 of the IBC, you can build under alternative methods and materials. So if a builder can demonstrate to a building official that this type of construction is equally safe as something in the code, they can build it. And that's totally within the discretion of the building official. And the fire service really, unless you're in the development review process, has no part in that. So building officials said, we want to get everybody involved in the process. We need some codes to guide us on what we should approve and what we shouldn't. And as an example of some of these buildings that were not even proposed, but were built, here is Carbon 12. This is in Portland, Oregon. It is 8 stories of mass timber construction. It is an apartment building on floors 2 through 7, and it is it's 8 stories, 2 through 8. It is the tallest mass timber building in North America right now. I was there. It's retail on the first floor and apartments above it. There's also the T3 building in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is 7 stories. It's an office building with retail on the first level. And as we speak, and keep in mind, the codes that I'm going to talk about aren't, they're not going to be published until 2021 in the IBC. And then for some states, they probably won't even be adopted until 2023 or 24, although some states are adopting early. They're being proposed right now in Milwaukee and in Cleveland. Have an office building in Cleveland, have apartments in Milwaukee. I also know of Nashville, Charlottesville, Newark, New Jersey, all have proposed mass timber buildings coming. This is the tallest building in the world, mass timber. It's 18 stories of mass timber. It's called Brock Commons. It's on the University of British Columbia. It is student housing. It is 18 stories, and I talked to the chief up there, Chief John McCurney, who's now retired, and his safety officer, and they thought this is insanity to build an 18-story wood building. They had no idea the difference between mass timber and light frame, as I've demonstrated, but once they got into the process, learned the science of tall wood buildings, you had the safety officer that was actually quoted in Fire Engineering magazine in 2018 said, man, I tell you, I thought this was crazy, and now once I've gotten into it, I can't believe how safely these can be built. I actually asked the chief for a tour of the building, and he said, sure, you can come up, but it's really not going to be much to look at because all of the CLT, all of the wood construction is covered under layers of gypsum board, and it's going to look like any other 18-story building. So how did this come about? The building officials went to the ICC and asked them to form an ad hoc committee. An ad hoc committee, a consensus committee, 16 people. They had one person from the wood industry, one from steel, concrete, gypsum, a lot of fire engineers, fire protection engineers, building officials, and they formed into working groups. And the working groups each were assigned different problems or different issues. And they were to explore the science of tall wood buildings, to deem whether they would be feasible or not, and then develop codes that would govern the building of these structures. This is just the makeup of the ad hoc committee, building and fire officials, engineers and architects. Like I said, there was only one representative from the wood industry of the 16 folks. There was a local fire marshal out of Northern Virginia, John Wasler, Sean DeCrane from the IAFF. He was a battalion chief in Cleveland. There was Steve DiGiovanni, who was the chief fire plans examiner for Clark County, Nevada, among others. But it was a consensus committee. So they set up performance measures for themselves. And the performance measures during their deliberations was we could have no collapse under reasonable fire scenarios without the aid of an automatic sprinkler system. That was performance criteria 1. Performance criteria 2 was these buildings cannot create an unusual amount of radiant heat that are going to affect the exposures around them. Criteria 3 is there could be no unusual response from a building of tall mass timber from radiant heat from an exposure that's on fire. There has to be no unusual fire department access issues. A lot of times during construction, the fire service has a very difficult time fighting the fire. Usually in construction fires, access is a problem, water supply is a problem, early notification is a problem. This was going to solve the access. He also wanted the tenability of the tenants to be able to escape firefighter attack tenability. So you need egress and ingress, and you need highly reliable and redundant fire protection system. After months of deliberation, actually 2 years of deliberation, the Tallwood Ad Hoc Committee deemed that their set of 14 proposals met these criteria. But to get there, they had to do fire testing. So the fire working group of the Tallwood Ad Hoc Committee developed a series of fire tests that were conducted at the ATF. And it was supervised by the Forest Products Lab. They were looking to measure or evaluate or assess the egress tenability for the tenants along with firefighter attack tenability. But they also were looking to inform the code development process. They learned, and you will see the different types of construction are informed by the 5 tests. I'm only going to show the video because of time. I'm only going to show 2 of the 5 tests, but I'm going to describe all 5 of them. So the ad hoc committee created the fire test scenario. They created the test compartment. So what we have here is a 2-story structure, a 1-bedroom layout on each structure. You have a kitchen and a living room that's 15 by 30. You have a bedroom that's 15 by 30. You have a wraparound corridor and a stairwell. Okay. On this scenario, they took a survey. There was a survey, Canadian survey taking of household furnishing. So they took this survey. It's about fire loading, how much fire load it would take. And they took the mean average of that study, added one standard deviation for you statistics majors out there, and they came up with 570 megajoules per meter squared. That's the fire load for a tall mass timber building in this test. 570 megajoules per meter squared doesn't mean much to people that aren't engineers. It is equivalent of 300 to 400 gallons of gasoline. So these are heavily fire-loaded units. They also put 20 pounds per square foot on the roof. There is a 20-minute compartment door and a 90-minute corridor. So from the compartment to the corridor is a 20-minute door, which is the code, and a 90-minute door for the stairwell. Now, this is a simulated high-rise, but the stairwell isn't pressurized like you would see in certain tall buildings. This is a rough drawing, rough sketch of the compartment. So the ceiling height was 9 feet. This was a 5-ply CLT. That means there was 5 layers of wood adhered together. Each lamination was approximately 1 1/3 inches. The entire thing was about 7 inches thick. It used a polyurethane adhesive, and you see the wraparound corridor. These were the furnishings. You had a living room. Well, this is actually some of the furnishings for some of the tests. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you see a concealed space, but they put gypboard within the concealed space because you cannot have any combustible concealed spaces. In the kitchen, they didn't put appliances in there just because it was deemed that they wouldn't contribute anything to the fire, and they were a big-time added expense. They did have all the utility penetrations, plumbing and electrical and mechanical. They didn't hook up the utilities, but they had the penetrations, and they had them sealed per the IBC. And then in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the living room. Even with all the cheap furniture we bought from IKEA, there's about $5,000 worth of furniture that was purchased for each test. And it was modern furnishings. It's not like the old legacy furnishings, which were cotton and wood and performed fairly decently in a fire. These were the new, modern, a lot of foams, plastics, things that ignite and just go up. Total heat release rate is off the charts. But even with all that, they still had to add wood cribbing. And then one of our guys donated his code book to be sacrificed for the test. Gladly offered them up. So this is just more of the furnishings you see. They actually added OSB, oriented strand board, to the floor to simulate a combustible floor. So in the first test, you had all of the CLT covered. All the wood was covered with 2 layers of Type-X 5/8 gypsum board. Okay. Now, this test was going to be in a non-sprinklered compartment, so there was going to be no sprinkler activation. So I'm not going to show test 1 because test 2 kind of proceeds the same way. So they ignite the cabinet on fire. The room flashes over, the living room flashes over in about 12 minutes. The bedroom flashes over in about 17 minutes. It goes to decay phase. The 20-minute door actually lasts about 57 minutes. So the bottom 2 pictures are after the fire. They let this burn itself out. There was no firefighter intervention that you'll see in test 2. And that's those 2 lower pictures, if you can see them. That's not after it was overhauled. The fire was so intense that it actually consumed all the contents of the room, of the compartment, and the metal stud wall covered with a 1/2 inch of gypsum. That's how intense it was. Now, in test 2, they exposed 30% of the ceilings. The original plan was not to expose any of the tall mass timber, any of the mass timber, any of the CLT. But the design community said, aesthetically, we want to be able to expose some of it. So they had test 2 that exposed 30%. Start the video here. So I'll just narrate through the video. All the test fires were started the same way. They were in a pan of gasoline in a kitchen cabinet with gasoline-soaked wrap. So you see the ATF firefighters go in there and light off the kitchen cabinet. There were 420 channels of data collected during these tests. They measured everything. I don't know that you can see, because the screens aren't that big. The ATF had never built a test compartment as big as this. This is the biggest fire they've ever had. They were worried that we were going to cook their hood up. So they actually had these deluge nozzles on tripods, and they were going to hit a board if it got too bad. But after the first test, they realized it wasn't going to. Tests 1, 2, and 3 simulate the unlikely scenario of a total sprinkler failure combined with no response from the fire department, combined with these big open portals in the front. The real apartment obviously is not going to have a 10-foot wide by 8-foot high opening in the front. But this wasn't really to test reality. What it was to really put CLT through the paces. They wanted to really test it. And over top of the 30% of the exposed ceilings, they loaded it with water barrels to put an extra load on top of where the CLT would be exposed. So you see, you have flashover in the living room, right at about 13 minutes. The one camera, you can see that the bed's starting to off gas. Now on the lower left-hand screen, you see the corridor door, there's no smoke. Next to it is the stairwell door. The corridor, you see some smoke in there, but the door is still in place. See a little bit of flame impingement, but the door is still in place, 20-minute door. So you're approaching flashover, and now the bedroom. We're having flashover and flashover for laboratory purposes is 600 degrees centigrade, 1 foot from the ceiling. So it's about 1,135 degrees, 1 foot from the ceiling. When you're in the fire service, you look and say, that's flashed over. But the laboratory folks, they wanted a specific measurement. So now it's starting to enter decay phase. That 20-minute door is still hanging in there, 38 minutes. The door will actually last almost an hour before it actually falls out of place. And by the time it falls out of place, the fire is well into the decay phase, and there's no flame impingement into the hallway whatsoever. So the door falls out at about an hour, and by this time the fire's almost burned itself out. This has 2 layers, tight back 5/8 gypsum board with 30% of the ceiling exposed. So here are the pictures after the fact. You see the flashover in both rooms, the decay phase, and then the lower center and right picture is the ceiling, where the CLT ceiling was exposed. There's a char there, and that was expected. And on the issue of char, wood, generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, chars at about 1.5 inches per hour. So they pull the gyp board off of the CLT, and as you can see, it's clean, except in the area. If you look by the guy with the white helmet, the CLT ceiling is charred just in the area that it was exposed in. This is a cross-section of that ceiling that we chopped. And remember I told you it was a 5-ply CLT, 5 layers. You count down from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4. That fire burned for 3 hours, was not extinguished by the fire department, was not extinguished by an extinguisher, sprinkler system. And it didn't quite get to the first bond line of the first ply. And you can see where it goes up. That is where the gyp board ended and the exposed CLT began. So test 1, 2, and 3 all went almost identically the same way. They all burned for about 3 hours, burned themselves out. In this test, we exposed 40% of the walls, two opposing walls, the flashover, decay phase. It was very predictable. The one thing about test 3, and I have an event log that I'll go through, is that the door to the hallway was installed improperly. So that 20-minute door only lasted about 15 minutes. And that just goes to show you how important workmanship is and inspections are. But even then, it still kept the fire from igniting the hallway. This is test 4. This is probably the most accurate test. This is where the sprinkler system works. All the wood, all the CLT is fully exposed in test 4 and 5. There's no gypboard up except in the kitchen and the bathroom where it's required by the code. This is probably the least sexy of all the tests because it doesn't get going. The minute that it breaks out of the cabinet, a sprinkler head ignites and puts it out, or activates and puts it out. So in this test, not only do they expose all the CLT, they actually leave all the doors open to see if it gets in the hallway. And in this test, the flashing you see is just a visual alarm. If the audio was on, you would hear the smoke alarm going off. And the only reason it even took 2 minutes to put it out is because it was started in a cabinet. The fire had to break out of the cabinet before the sprinkler head would even activate. And there's glazing on the front of the compartment too. Test 1, 2, and 3 are open portals because they wanted the ventilation for a high energy fire. They really wanted to put CLT through the paces. In this one, they put up glazing, which doesn't allow that big gulp of air in there, so the fire never gets going before it is extinguished in less than 3 minutes by the sprinkler head. In test 5, we actually delay the sprinkler response. So that's pretty much it for test 4. So as you'll see, all the CLT was exposed. The fire never got going to even char or even smoke stain any of it. In the lower right-hand picture, you see that the fire damage is contained exclusively to the cabinet and the surrounding area, really held to the point, if not area of origin. You had some smoke, but fire sprinkler system worked as it usually does, about 92% effective, and extinguished the fire. The test 5, there's a delayed sprinkler response. So what we do here is we simulate the scenario where the sprinkler system fails and we have to wait 20 minutes for the fire department to come and to hook up to the FDC and charge that sprinkler system. And the windows are glazed. All of the CLT is exposed. In fact, one of the ATF firefighters gets impatient and actually at minute 15 knocked out one of the glass panes to get it to go. One of the things that the test group wanted to see is, hey, if this fire gets a head start, will the sprinkler system still be effective in putting it out? So the bedroom actually, the living room actually reaches flashover, and then the bedroom close to it before the sprinkler system is initiated after 20 minutes. The one thing about the ATF fire test, test 1, 2, and 3, because there was no sprinkler involvement or firefighter intervention, those fires got really intense and they had huge amount of ventilation. I took a course on arson investigation in Glencoe, Georgia, where they actually had 2 burn cells side by side. It was a fire investigation course. And somebody forgot to close the door on the one that was lit off by natural stuff in the room. And the door with gasoline was closed. The door where gasoline wasn't used was burned more thoroughly because the door was left open and had ventilation. You see in this fire, as soon as it hits 20 minutes, boom, sprinkler activates. It overcomes the fire condition and extinguishes the fire. But in the first 3 fires, they were so intense. There was only 2 labs in the country that could have even handled them, ATF being one of them. The one fire was recorded at 23 megawatts. It's the largest fire by far in ATF lab history. 23 megawatts, to put it in any kind of perspective for you, is if you stand next to a really intense campfire, that maybe you could stand there for 10 minutes, that would be 500 kilowatts. The 23 megawatts is about 50 times stronger than that. So this is with the delayed sprinkler. You had all the CLT exposed. You had a combustible floor. This is the event log. So the thing to notice about this log is test 1, 2, and 3, flashover occurred about 13 minutes, very consistently. So it didn't matter how much CLT or what CLT was exposed, whether it was the ceiling, the walls, or no CLT. The flashover occurred in the living room around the same time. In the bedroom, it was even more consistent at right around 17 minutes. So what that would lead us to believe is that the amount of CLT exposed really did not alter or affect flashover conditions. It basically is the contents of the room that affect flashover more than the construction of the building. And since the contents of the room were consistent in every test, flashover in the living room and bedrooms were. Now, when it comes to flame in the hallway, test 1 and 2 were fairly consistent. Test 3 was significantly less because that door failed earlier. The tests were allowed to run their courses for test 1, 2, and 3, and you see that they do. At 3 hours, they're stopped. And then in test 4 and 5, with their sprinkler intervention, it just tells you when they activated, and usually about 30 seconds after activation, they put the fire out. So these sites, these tests rather, are in a report that you can get through the USDA, and this is the website. If you want to see these videos for yourself, that is the website on the AWC website. There's also another website. So the Tollwood Ad Hoc Committee actually came up with 14 proposals. It created 3 new construction types. This is the first time in the history of the building code that 3 types of constructions were added. Type 4A, Type 4B, Type 4C. Until then, Type 4 was simply heavy timber. It changes definitions, comes up with height and area. There's provisions for fire safety during construction and also for exterior wall non-combustible covering. This is Type 4A. This is the one everybody talks about, the 18-story. So under Type 4A construction, this is the tallest. It can be up to 270 feet, 18 stories. It has to be fully sprinklered, a full 13 system. Doesn't matter even if it's apartments. No 13R systems for the sprinkler folks out there. 13 systems full. You're going to get all the mass timber. All of it has to be covered with 3 layers of 5/8 Type X gypsum board. Now, if you remember test 1, it was all covered with just 2 layers. This requires 3 layers. They sort of wanted to be more conservative than what the test has been reviewed. So the primary frame and floor has a 3-hour fire resistance rating. And if you know your fire resistance rating tables in the IBC, Type 1A, which is a non-combustible protected, that's the most conservative type of construction out there, is also 3 hours. So you had a steel or concrete protected building that can be built to an unlimited height. They have a 3-hour fire resistance rating of 3 hours. Type 4A has a 3-hour fire resistance rating. The difference is in concrete and steel, if you sprinkler those, you can knock that down to 2 hours. In Type 4A, there is no sprinkler. It has to be sprinklered, and it has a 3-hour fire resistance rating. Now, the part of that 3 hours, 2/3 has to come from non-combustible protection. So each gypsum board, each Type X gypsum board will give you 40 minutes. So that's where you get your 4 or your 3 boards, gives you 40 minutes each, 120 minutes of protection for the CLT. The stair towers have to be non-combustible, so you're going to have a CMU, elevator shaft, or stair towers. There can't be any concealed spaces that are combustible. So if you have a concealed space, you have to put at least 1 layer of gypsum board to protect that. And the floor topping has to also be non-combustible, so you need 1 inch of gypcrete or cast-in-place concrete. So that is the tallest. I don't really see a lot of these buildings being built. the market's simply not there for 18-story buildings. But I'm sure there'll be a show pony somewhere in the country because it's a whole lot cheaper to make a 18-story wood building and say, hey, we have the tallest mass timber building in the world, than to try to get the tallest building in the world. And on the subject of cost, there seems to be this myth that this is being pushed because these buildings are cheaper than steel and concrete. That is not true. There's only 2 manufacturers of CLT in the country, so these buildings actually cost more. There's other reasons why people build them than just cost. Now, that cost may go down as manufacture goes up, but for the time being, these are more expensive than steel and concrete buildings. Now, Type 4B construction, this can go as high as 12 stories. Remember, Type A was 18, this is Type B, 12 stories. You can expose 20% of the ceiling. In the test, we saw it was 30% of the ceiling, but you're going to be allowed to expose 20% of the ceiling or 40% of the walls. It does have to be fully sprinklered, 13 system. You have to have a primary frame, floor, fire resistance rating of 2 hours. If you go back to that chart I was telling you about, Type 1A is 3 hours, which is non-combustible protected. You have Type 1B, which is non-combustible, not protected. That has a 2-hour rating for the floor and for the primary frame, just like Type 4B. You can have a mass timber stair tower, but none of it can be exposed. It has to be covered with chipboard, and you can have concealed spaces, but once again, they have to be protected with chipboard. No combustible concealed spaces, and the floor topping also has to be non-combustible. Now, the last type of construction that was added was Type 4C. The maximum height is 85 feet. The maximum stories are 9 stories. So I don't know how you fit 9 stories in 85 feet. You can do that. Great for you. But you can't go over 85 feet, and there's no podium exception. You can't put a concrete podium in and then go 9 stories above that if it's over 85 feet. You can have all the mass timber exposed inside. It has to be sprinklered, yes, full 13 system. The floor and the primary frame, 2-hour fire resistance rating, just like 4B, just like Type 2B construction. And the floor topping does not have to be non-combustible, but it does have to meet flammability and flame spread requirements that are in Section 804 of the IB. So this is just demonstrating that if you want to expose the ceiling in Type 4B, you can, but you can't enclose it or you have to put chipboard over it. And that's same with shafts and hoistways. You cannot have any of the exposed CLT in a concealed. Now, here's when I talked about the robust and redundant fire protection features. After 9/11, the IBC said, you know what, we need a more reliable water supply for super tall buildings. So if you build a building, regardless of the construction type, over 420 feet, you have to have a redundant water supply. That means 2 fire pumps, 2 water supplies from 2 different mains. That is triggered at 420 feet for non-combustible buildings. For tall mass timber buildings, that same redundant water supply requirement is triggered at 120 feet. So the minute you go over 120 feet, 2 fire pumps, 2 water mains. There's also, they learned from the fire test that you need to seal the mass timber. There has to be a sealing. You don't want any of the hot air and gases getting behind the CLT. It has to be installed correctly and sealed. And it has to be inspected. And the owner, and I'll talk about this a little bit, the owner has to keep visually inspect all of the passive fire protection features, keep an inventory, and report it to the building or fire official every year. So this is a requirement I think should happen in all tall buildings, not just tall mass timber buildings, because the minute the fire department issues their use and occupancy permit, then in come Verizon and in come Comcast, and they start making Swiss cheese of the firewalls and Swiss cheese of the fire barriers. What this says is the owner is responsible to keep an inventory of all fire protection features, passive and active, and have a third party certify that every year. What they were worried about in the ad hoc committee was that I buy my condo in a Type 4A building and I'm on the 18th floor and I say, I paid all this money for a CLT building. I want to see it, so I pull the JIP board off after I get my C of O. And that would negate the fire protection features, obviously. So they said, this is a way we can ensure that the JIP board stays in place. So it would be a part of any lease agreement, it would be a part of any HOA agreement, that they would have to allow inspectors, third-party inspectors, once a year to come in, do this. This is really not new. Right now, buildings have third parties do their sprinklers, third parties do their alarms, they certify them, they have reports, they pass on to the fire inspector every year. And on the note of the CLT and the non-protection, the non-combustible protection, is in the areas that they're exposed in type 4, B, and C, it still has to meet that 2-hour fire resistance rating. So that means if you expose any of it, you have to upsize the whole panel to accommodate that fire resistance rating. So the exterior wall assembly, this is just a detail of that. Now, the one thing you have to know is during the deliberations of the Tallwood Ad Hoc Committee, there occurred a fire in London called Grenfell Towers. Anybody remember Grenfell Towers? It was a high-rise building. It actually was made of steel, but it killed like 70-some people because the exterior wall covering had a combustible foam insulation in it. So the Ad Hoc Committee was really mindful of exterior wall fires. So they said, we don't care if it's type 4A, type 4B, or type 4C. We don't care how much CLT you expose on the inside. You cannot expose any on the outside. And in fact, you have to have a layer of JIP board and a non-combustible exterior cladding for that. It also bolstered a lot of fire safety during construction. Construction fires during the same period had taken off. They were on television a lot. So what it says is that you have to clad the building inside and out as it goes up with non-combustible material. So if you have a type 4A, you have to have the 3 layers of JIP board going on as it goes up. So as soon as you hit floor 5, floor 1, inside and out has to have a non-combustible cladding. And then as you go up, it goes up. Same with type 2 and type 3, even though you don't have to clad the interior with JIP board, you do have to do the exterior as it goes up. I actually think that would be a good code requirement for all buildings. Another requirement is that the standpipe has to go up with the building. So as the building goes up, the standpipe goes up with the building. The water supply has to be approved by the fire chief. I think they actually changed the wording to fire official. And all the stairs, vertical shafts have to be protected as the building goes up. All the penetrations, the through penetrations have to be sealed as the building goes up. So I've gone through this fairly quickly. The workshop that I give on this topic is usually anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours. I had about 30, 40 minutes here. If you want to learn more about mass timber, you can go to our woodaware.info. It has a section on mass timber. It has links to the fire tests I talked about, the reports that I talked about. It goes into the codes and standards a little deeper than I did. I'm trying to give you just a 30,000-foot view of the code changes that are coming. On there, it also talks about other wood products, things that aren't mass timber, and we have PowerPoints on there for fire service instructors that may want to learn about I-joists and firefighter safety, or structural composite lumber and things of that nature. This is an article, this is a link to an article I did for Firehouse Magazine last year. It goes more in depth to the code proposals. Back then, they weren't, they were just proposals. They were accepted and voted on and approved in January of this year. And I did another article for Fire Engineering Magazine. I've given this talk around the country to a lot of fire service groups, and I've heard concerns. So I try to pick the top 5 or 6 questions that I most frequently ask and put those into an article. It also talks about the code changes that are coming for 2021. This is my contact information. If you know anyone, that we go free of charge and provide live training to fire service groups and building officials around the country. I do construction fire safety based on NFPA 241. I do NFPA 1620 pre-incident planning and fire suppression considerations in large area construction sites, and I do this presentation on tall mass timber as well as any presentation on any engineered wood product. Does anybody have any questions? I'll be around after the fact. If not, I thank you for your attention. He told me to stand by.
I have a couple small gifts for you. One is our convention mug as a thank you. And you are the first official presenter to receive my 2019-2020 challenge coin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning again. Time for the remarks of the new officers, and I guess it starts with me. I am super excited to be the president of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. It's something I've thought about since 1986 when I came here for my first convention. Saw the signs on the wall, and I don't remember who was running for office at that time. I will know soon, but I wonder how you could do that and what steps it took to get to that position. It's just something that always interested me, and I'm truly honored to represent this organization. Hopefully I'll make you all proud, make my family proud. I was honored to have about 35 members from my fire company spend the week down here with me to support me, and I'm extremely humbled by that. And then we've got several more guys that brought down every fire truck from my station to be in the parade. Today, after I get off the tram, I'm going to go back and ride through the parade with my company on a very special piece of apparatus for me. I'm a fourth-generation firefighter, and my great-grandfather was our town's first fire chief. A little over a year and a half ago, and I wish the gentleman was here with us today, but a little over a year and a half ago, a very kind gentleman named Michael French from Hampton, Virginia, on a phone call with me, gave us back our 1927 American LaFrance. So I'm going to get to ride through the parade today on the piece that was my great-grandfather's truck, and I'm honored to do so. I'd like to take a minute to thank all the past presidents for their support over the last couple of years, the officers I've worked with, the executive committee members, especially Robbie Blackston, who will be the chairman of the committee. He's a great young man, great leader in our fire company, and I'm sure he'll be a great leader for the executive committee. Again, I'm truly honored to be here. I'm looking forward to working with First Vice President Chuck Walker and Second Vice President Joel McCrae. I think we'll make a very formidable team, and when you add us in with the ladies presidents, I think we'll have a great impact on this organization. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your support. I'm just a phone call away. And if you'll excuse me, it's time to get to work. Next up is First Vice President Chuck Walker.
Good morning, everyone. It's truly an honor to stand before you as the first vice president of this organization. 3 months ago is not what I had planned in mind. I was on the legislative committee in Annapolis. I was asked if I would take on this responsibility and given that appointment. I do not regret it for 1 minute. I thank you and all your member companies for their support, their kind words, the guidance of the past presidents, the guidance of everybody who has anything to do with the MSFA to help me through the last 3 months to get here. thoroughly look forward to working with Mike. We've had long talks for the last 2 months, as you can imagine, on things that we'd like to do in the future, things to accomplish between now and next year. We're going to do everything that we can to accomplish those feats. And as Mike will tell you, he's going to do everything to help Joel and myself to get set up for our years going forward. I look forward to serving you again next year and for this year and next year. And once again, I thank you for your support. And I want to make a quote. I was not here Monday, as you know. Most of you know I wasn't here. I was ill. And my good friend, past President Frank Underwood, made a statement to somebody, and it didn't get made. And Frank always says, Chuck leads from the heart. We don't know whose heart it is, but he always leads from the heart. With that, thank you very much.
I just want to let you guys know, when Chuck was asked to step up, there were several people that put their names in the hat. But from that day on, I think Chuck and I have spoken just about every day, planning, talking about committees, things we want to get accomplished. Because my job is to support him and Joel, because this time goes by. I heard it from the presidents before I started. It's so true. Time goes by so fast. So I told Joel and Chuck that I'm here to support them. I certainly will. But again, he and I we spent a lot of time, and also with Kate Tominelli, our executive director, on the things that we want to get done. So Chuck, thanks. I'm looking forward to working with you. Next up is our newly elected second vice president. We didn't talk to him because we didn't know he was going to get in. But those conversations have started immediately when he came on board. So Joel, your time for your comments, sir.
Thank you, Mike, and good morning, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to have the opportunity to represent you as the second vice president of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. I look forward to working with President Faust, first Vice President Walker, all the officers of the MSFA, members of the executive committee, the many hardworking communities, and our partners to represent you. Getting to this point is truly a team effort. First and foremost, I thank my wife, Barb, who agreed to take this journey with me. She's been my strength, my encouragement. She has been my coach and my advisor. And I thank you for being my partner in this adventure and in life. I love you, dear. I would also like to thank the Long Green Volunteer Fire Company and the Baltimore County Volunteer Firemen's Association for their support. Special thanks to John McDowell and Dougie Simpkins, who have been with me every step of the way. I've also been fortunate to have a past president in my county to guide me and encourage me. So Bernie Smith, I thank you. Also, special thanks to Rick Iyer, Lou Harvey, and Buddy Staggerwalt for their help and support. And even before I knew that I was ready to take on this responsibility, I was fortunate to have very dear friends who believed in me enough and encouraged me to run for this office. It is with my deepest appreciation and gratitude that I thank Stu Carter, Wayne Tome, President Carl Elin, and his wife Eileen. And I look forward to traveling around the state and talking and listening to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite up, hold on one second. Oh, I need to invite Secretary Doyle Cox to the podium. Sorry, don't know him.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, it's a great honor to serve you in the previous years as secretary, and it's going to be an honor to serve you again as your secretary, especially for the new officers. We'll work with them along with my staff of assistant secretaries. So again, if you need anything, please make contact with us, and we will provide you with the information that we have. Thank you ever so much.
Now it's truly my pleasure to introduce to you our new fire prevention ambassadors, I believe is the correct term, from Annie McCullough and first runner-up Madeline Patrick.
Good morning. As Mike said, I'm Annie McCullough. I'm Hartford or MSFA Miss Fire Prevention for 2019-2020 from Hartford County. I would like to thank you all for being here today, and I hope you enjoy your stay in Ocean City, and I hope to see you all in the parade as I go through. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Madeline Patrick, and I'm the first runner-up for MSFA. I can't wait to represent you guys. It's going to be a blast, and I can't wait to see you guys in the future.
Would the members of the executive committee please join me on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly my honor to introduce to you the 2019-2020 Executive Committee. So I'm going to start close to me. Mr. Bob Phillips, Charlie Albert, Dan Stevens, Tim Dayton. That can't be Doug Simpkins wearing like casual clothes. Okay. Wayne Tome Sr., Charlie Simpson, Ron Block, Vice Chairman of the Executive Committee, Lee Lutz, and Chairman of the Executive Committee from Sellersville, Robbie Blackstone. Gentlemen, I've said before, we have a lot of work to do. You guys are great. I've worked with every one of you in the past. It's really an honor to have you guys from the Executive Committee for me. I appreciate it's a big responsibility, and thank you all very, very much. I look forward to your guidance. And again, I'm here. Just give me a call if you need anything. Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we're going to swear in our appointed officers, and those that weren't with us last evening. Assistant Secretary Jean Aaron, Assistant Secretary Shirley Capato, and Assistant Secretary Michelle Malin. There you go. Okay. Assistant Treasurers Fred Cross, not sure I know him either. Wally Donaldson, Bobby Jacobs. Yes, sir. Assistant Financial Secretary Bobby Aaron. Chaplains Fred Bear, Deacon Charles Barnhart, Reverend Harry Hetz, Reverend Marvin Jackson, Franklin Roth, Rabbi Chesky Tenenbaum, Calvin Pete Walbert, Attorney Michael Farlow, and Assistant Attorney Bruce Poole, parliamentarians Richard Brooks, Kenneth Bush, and Chip Jewell. And I'd like to invite to the podium past President Mark Bilger to swear in the office.
Please raise your right hand. State your name where I state mine. I, Mark Bilger, do promise and swear to uphold the Constitution and bylaws of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. I further promise and swear to perform the duties to the office which I've been appointed. I will protect and maintain all monies, equipment, and property entrusted to my care. Turn the same over to my duly elected successor. Completion of my term. Congratulations, these are your new appointed officers.
I'd like to invite past President Gene Worthington for a couple of remarks.
Good morning, officers, delegates, and members of the MSFA. It is my honor to stand before you to announce and endorse the candidacy of my friend Ben Kurtz for the office of Second Vice President at next year's convention. Now, I cannot think of a better person to introduce than Ben for this office. Ben has all the credentials to assume this office, starting with his home company, the Jarrettsville Volunteer Fire Company, having joined in 1972 and serving 30 years as an officer. The Harford County Volunteer Fire and EMS Association, serving as a trustee, vice president, and president. The Harford Cecil Volunteer Firemen Association, serving as a vice president and president, respectively, and the Maryland State Firemen's Association, serving on the executive committee for 12 years and as a chairman for 2 different presidents. For the past 5 years, he has been your trustee. Now he desires to serve the association in a different manner. Ben will be committed to performing his duties to this office to the best of his ability. As we travel this coming year to the various meetings, you will learn of his credentials to hold this most prestigious office. He looks forward to meeting each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Good morning. I do wish to announce that I am a candidate for the year 2020 as second vice president of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. As I did when I was a trustee candidate, I will travel around the state to your county and regional associations to not only meet and greet, but also to listen to your concerns. The biggest thing we have to communicate between your home company, your home department, your home county association, regional association, and relay the issues and concerns back to the MSFA. I will also promise to work with our officers, not only our incoming president that we have this year with Mike Faust, but Chuck Walker as first vice and Joel McCray as our second vice president. Cannot wait to meet and greet with you. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. Thank you.
And for the final report of this session, there's a couple business things to take care of after that, but for the final report is Ron Sarnicki, our convention chairman.
Good morning. I hope that everybody's been enjoying themselves here at the beach. A little bit of a convention report. This year, we've tried a few things differently with the website. Really wanted to push out the information about seminars, registration for exhibits and other activities, and it's shown that it's been very successful. We had the most amount of exhibitors register this year than we've had in many, many years. We sold out A, B, and D halls, which is a good thing because those exhibitors pay the expenses for the convention. So we're very excited to see that work out for everybody. Plus, our student numbers are up dramatically for our seminars and our hot training. We think that that information being pushed out through social media has really made a difference. Our numbers of Jolly Roger were up. We were almost at 1,500 people at the Jolly Roger event Monday night. Prayer breakfast this morning was well attended. And of course, we've got to see what the apparatus will be like today with the parade. Right now, the weather forecast is it should hold off till we get through the parade, but there's another round of storms coming in for late afternoon and evening. So I guess we just got to deal with that as we go. It's been a pleasure serving as your convention chair. We've got a lot of more ideas. The laser light show this year was a new added addition to try and spice up the opening ceremonies. We'll be hosting a convention critique probably right near the end of this month or right after the 4th of July holiday, somewhere in there to try and get ideas. Any suggestions you have, please. There are some critique forms floating around. They were in the registration packets. Send them to me. Email us, any of the convention committee, part of the steering committee group, the co-chairs or vice chairs. Give them a holler, let them know your ideas. So as the chairman of the convention, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into this. I often get credit for that. The truth of the matter is it's one heck of a team. I could not do what I do without the work of all of those people that make up the convention committee. I want to thank them personally for their efforts because they work hard all year to bring you this outstanding event. Having Kevin Quinn here speak this year was something we thought would be a nice touch as the former chairman and now the vice chairman of the National Volunteer Fire Council. And Kevin said to me at dinner the other night that he's attended almost every state's convention that's out there. And by far, the MSFA convention is one of the premier ones. And if not the only one, it still does a week long of activities. The most he's seen has been 4 days. And so we're trying to continue the traditions of the Maryland State Fire Service. We're trying to give you an outstanding week of activities here at the beach, but we're also trying to make sure that this association stays vibrant, alive, and moves forward as we deal with the issues relative to our fire service community. So we're going to try and do our part as well. I want to thank you for your support, all your help, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your time here in Ocean City. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been coming to this convention just for a few years compared to some people, but this man puts on a heck of a show. He and his team do a fantastic job. I didn't realize how busy they were, how much work goes into this during the convention, before the convention, after. There was an issue last night that I think a couple of our Hall of Fame people, past presidents and trustees, had to take care of an issue for us all night. The work these guys do is incredible. I don't think they get near enough recognition for it, although we try. But Ron, thank you very much for all you do for this association, especially for the convention. I really, truly appreciate it. And everybody else should as well.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I was just told I need to invite up to the podium past President Danny Davis for some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. It is my pleasure to stand before you this morning to announce the candidacy for the Board of Trustees, Thomas A. Mattingly, Jr. Tommy was a candidate this year. He has been around to the various organizations. He will be at your meetings this coming year. Take the time to meet with him, learn his ideas and concerns, and you'll see how passionate he is to fulfill the position of trustee. Tommy?
Thank you, Danny. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to announce my candidacy for the Board of Trustees for the 2020 convention. I look forward to an opportunity to work with the officers of the Maryland State Firemen's Association, the Board of Trustees, but most of all you, the member companies and individuals of this great association. So I look forward to seeing you all over the next year and back here again in Ocean City. Thank you.
Next, I'd just like to ask if there is any unfinished or old business that needs to be addressed at this convention. Any old business or unfinished business? No old business? Hearing none? New business. Is there any new business that needs to be brought before this association? Call again for new business. Hearing none, I believe we are ready for Mitch and the $10,000 raffle. So Mitch and Anna, come on out, please. I'm so sorry. Anything?
Good morning. It's that time when we make somebody a little richer. Report of the Ways and Means Committee can be found on page 85 of the program, and that is the complete report for the 2017-2018 raffle. For the current raffle, right now we've brought in $46,855, and there will be a little bit more because we were selling tickets 5 minutes ago downstairs. They've now arrived. That's about $9,000 less than last year. We know we had issues at Springfest because we had a rainy Sunday. But at Sunfest we did $7,710, and Springfest was $4,536. I will have a final report at the executive committee tomorrow morning. We had a very successful raffle due to the dedication and support of the entire committee. And I want to thank all of them, and I cannot do it individually because I'm going to miss somebody and it's not fair. But I sincerely appreciate all the help that they gave us, especially the crews that go to Ocean City and work Sunfest and Springfest. They are 13-plus-hour days that we spend down there in all kinds of weather because we're open, rain or shine. And I do have next year's tickets already, as I always do. They're down in the financial office, so as soon as we conclude this session, anyone who wants them, please come down. And Doug Simpkins, I know I can't see if you're here, your Baltimore County tickets are already assigned. They're in a whole box just for you. You're welcome in the back row. Okay, it's time to get on with the raffle, so let's see who wins the money. Yep, Mike would like to speak first.
I know a lot of you guys don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It's pretty crowded back here. And Miss Anna, I didn't see you standing behind Mitch. I apologize for that. I might tear up a little bit here, but the convention just hasn't seemed the same. We miss Lou greatly. I know the committee does. I know Mitch does. Hearing him call me over and ask for $1, I truly miss it. You guys did a fantastic job. He was such an inspirational person when it came to this raffle, and I want to thank you. And he's absolutely, I know we say it about people all the time, they're going to be missed. That man was missed this year. And I just want to thank you for being here and helping with this. Thank you.
Sounds like we need some WD-40. You only need that and duct tape. That's the only two things you need. Put these on, I know how they write. Well, I can tell you it's a fire company. A second year in a row got 10,000. Ready? Bunker Hill Volunteer Fire and Rescue Company, Mount Rainier. That's why the fire companies need to buy their tickets. That helps us too because we don't have to take the tax out on fire companies. Michelle Carey, 410-255-5030. That looks like it could be a fire company sale with a ticket number. That was for $2,500. Mark Dixon, 443-480-3820. That will be for $1,500, third place. Janet Bliss, 301-349-4621. And that will be for fourth place for $1,000. Okay, we get another fire company in the mix. Fifth place, $750, Potomac Fire Company, number 2. I like labels. Sixth place for $500 is Heather Haller, Poolsville, Maryland. Seventh place, $250. Danielle Walters, 908-475-8407. Another fire company at number 8, $100. And let's see, Huntingtown Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad. Yeah, we'll keep the streak going. For ninth place, $100, Union Bridge Volunteer Fire Company. And the final $100 winner and the final prize in our raffle this year is Michelle Amron, 410-913-1482. I want to thank everyone who did buy tickets. If anyone is here, we'll be in the financial office. Give us a little bit of time and we'll get the checks in. And again, I have tickets downstairs for next year's raffle. Thank you.
Hey, Mitch, I'll see you tomorrow morning, but I'll buy $100 worth of tickets tomorrow from you for next year's raffle.
Yes, I forget. The president starts the raffle off next year, so he'll have his first $100 in.
Yep. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, ladies. Well, I guess we have reached the end of the presentation for session today. I'd just like to just take a couple quick minutes to tell you again how truly honored I am to be the president of the Maryland State Firemen's Association. I hope you all join us at the parade. One thing that is key and I think paramount to the success of this organization is communication. That's what I've been trying to work on for the last 2 years, and I continue to work on through this year. Again, I've got a great working relationship with our executive director and Chuck Walker. Spent many hours with Joel McRae. I think we're going to make a formidable team. I look forward to, like I said, serving this organization for the next year and beyond. But I'm just a phone call away. If there's something important going on in your county or county association, please reach out and let us know. We'll do our best to get to all the associations as I've been trying to do for the last 2 years. I'll continue to do that, but I don't want to miss anything important if I can. So please reach out, send me an email, send an email to Kate or Doyle, and let me know that you'd like one of the presidents or myself to be at those functions. So again, I look forward to this coming year. I'll see you all between now, but I'll see you at the beach next year. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful day, and please be safe. Take care. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the benediction. I did not entertain a motion. Sorry, I messed up twice now. Oh. No, I didn't. I only wrapped it once, so I guess that's right. Sir, would you please come up and give the benediction? I apologize.
Well, of course I will.
Thank you very much. Do I get a car?
No.
Okay.
Get out. Let's rise for prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this time you've given us to be here in convention. And you know, the time goes a little fast, I guess, when you get older. But Father, we ask that we have a good parade today and bless those who will be participating. Also bless those who are healing from injuries, those who have died. We ask your blessing to be upon them. And now, Lord, as we go back to our respective fire companies to do the work that we need to do for the protection of life and property, we ask your blessing to be upon each individual person. And Father, give us traveling mercies from this great place we call Ocean City, back to our homes, back to our work, and back to the things that we need to do as fire persons and auxiliary persons for this great state. Again, we thank you for this convention and for all the people who put a lot of work into these last several days. Be with us until we meet again. And may the blessings of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you now and forevermore. Amen. Can I bang the gavel? Can I make a motion? Okay, make the motion. Do what you got to do.
I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second, Charles Barnhart, Tawny Town Fire Company.
Thank you, sir.
At least he's the only one to get it right. All those in favor?
Let me get out of the way.
Will you get out of the way?
Yes.
I'm in trouble. I have to say another prayer tonight for telling him to step down. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. 3 times?